Good afternoon. I'm Lukhanya Khalata. A very warm welcome to this, our very first live broadcast from the IEC's Election Centre in Cape Town. We'll be broadcasting from here for the rest of this week, keeping you up to date with the latest election-related news from all around the Western Cape. I'm joined in studio by one of our analysts for the week, Professor Fani Kluter, who's linked to a number of the country's institutions of higher learning. He and his colleagues will help us provide analysis and perspective to the events of the week that lie ahead. But before we speak to the professor, let's familiarize ourselves with the Western Cape and some of the key issues that will be in contest this week.
It's known for its natural beauty. The Western Cape is one of the major growth areas in the country and has a population of over 5.8 million people. Afrikaans, isiXhosa and English are the main languages. The mother city has, in the past, been one of the most hotly contested metropolitan councils in the country. 2/3 of the province's population resides in the Cape Town metropole, and their expectations vary.
The people, they need a job, they need their houses and the school from our children.
Health is actually my biggest problem because you have so many problems at the hospitals, and I would like all those changes to come. They must make all those changes, and they mustn't just make promises. We're sick and tired of promises.
We don't have schools, we have to pay the school fees, and we don't have quantities in education.
The service provision needs to change. There needs to be an improvement. You cannot say you are the city that works for the people when you give houses to younger people. What about those people who have been on the data base for years and they still don't have houses?
Honestly speaking, I'd like to say at the moment, I'm quite happy with that Cape Town is at the moment as compared to other provinces or cities. But I would like to see maybe our mayor helping us to try by all means and combat racism issue. That's the main issue that I have. But then on the other side as well, youth, we need to focus on youth in terms of jobs opportunities.
There's too much crime. Yes, I would like for me to be safe and security, yes.
Just over 3,060,000 voters are registered across the 402 wards in the province. Of the 30 local councils, only 5 are not controlled by the DA. The ANC controls the Beaufort West, Cederberg and Karoo district municipalities. In the Little Karoo, a regional party called ICOSA controls the Kanaland municipality. And in the Karoo, another regional party, the Karoo Gemeenskapsparty, is currently running the Prince Albert municipality after ending its coalition with the ANC. The Cape Town metropole is the jewel in the crown of the province that parties are fighting for. It has a vibrant political landscape, and with the EFF taking part in its first local government elections, parties will give it their all to lure voters. However, since taking control of the metro in 2006, in alliance with smaller parties, the DA has strengthened its hold on the metro. The DA is now in outright control of the 221-seat council, with the ANC as the official opposition holding 72 seats. Cape Town is one of the fastest growing cities in the country, and with over 230 informal settlements surrounding the city, housing is one of the major challenges facing the metro. It's also seen its share of service delivery protests, including volatile marches to the city centre. In 2013, the so-called Poo protests reached its peak, and several protest actions brought the city to a standstill. And finally, the stage is set as political parties have had their say, and now the power shifts to the voters.
I would like to see, when we vote, we want to see people having houses. We want to see people having the toilets. We want to see people happy, because this democracy is for people. And I think the people of South Africa wants to be happy. After all these years, they've been suffering. So now they need their happiness now. So it's high time now the government to provide the service to the people.
Mariska Botha, SABC News, Cape Town.
Thanks to Mariska Botha for producing that insert. Now, I'd like to bring the professor in here into this conversation. Prof, first of all, good afternoon and thanks for joining us.
Hello, Lucanio. My pleasure.
So, the province boasts the most number of parties contesting these local government elections. How much of a role do you think legacy or party ties will play in how voters decide to vote?
Normally, the traditional affiliations of voters with parties has a very dominant impact on how they vote. Because in most cases, voters are not very aware of all the technical issues involved and even the candidates. Therefore, they're generally satisfied with the party and they vote for the party. But in cases where there are problems with specific issues, as we've seen in this inset, where toilets and housing and other services are problematical, then they might create conflicts in their own minds. And then they might decide to even split their vote or to just move to another party or another candidate on the basis of the issues.
If I may, let's just quickly touch on that matter of service delivery, the bread and the butter issues. How much of an impact will that have on these elections, particularly here in the Western Cape?
Yeah, I think it will have a major impact because we've seen not only in the polls over the last few weeks, but also in terms of the service delivery protests, that people in many communities are really very frustrated with the lack of services or bad services. And as a result of that, I think we can expect a lot of votes being cast on the basis of the possibility of having better level of services.
All right. And then one of the, just very briefly, Prof, one of the issue of candidates, how much, we've seen it in the run-up. I mean, we saw in KZN the killings that have taken place. Fortunately, in the Western Cape, we haven't had any of those issues. But how much will people decide on who to vote for and which party to vote for, both based on the candidates that the parties have put forward?
We've seen problems with both the major parties, at least the ANC and the DA, in terms of the candidate lists, where voters have been very dissatisfied with some of the candidates. And that will also have a very important impact on the votes because many of those candidates that the voters might have preferred in their different situations are now standing as independents. And that will increase the possibility that split votes might be cast.
All right, Professor, thank you very much. That was Professor Fani Kluter, who will be with us for the rest of the week, and he'll help us unpack some of the issues, heading into Election Day on Wednesday. That, unfortunately, is all the time we have for this broadcast. We hope that you will join us again as we bring you the latest election-related news as it happens from all around our beautiful province. We now cross you back to our studios and our colleagues in Johannesburg.